when we talk about silver, Sarah, I don't tell people to buy it to get rich or to get wealthy. It is wealth, but when you look at the size of the market cap of the silver market, it's a pimple on the elephant's rear end. It's such a small market cap. If you start to all of a sudden throw in government money, you're going to have a battle between the industrials, Tesla, Samsung, Sony, the hedge funds who smell blood in the water, the investors, and the government. All three are going to be vying for the same ounce of silver. The potential is massive, and it's not why you buy it, but it is truly has an extraordinary story behind it.
That's
and
right.
I think government acknowledging
it's
that
interesting.
puts an exclamation point behind it.
Well, could there be more silver in our country that could be mined and we don't know? Why is it just certain countries and not the United States? Was it mined thousands of years ago? Why don't we have it here?
Well, we should, and I don't know what the reason is, but I can tell you I don't even think we're barely 10th on the list globally. The majority of it comes from Mexico and Peru. Mining over the last, when you talk about suppressing price in dollars in particular, around the world, prices went much higher against other currencies than it has against the dollar long ago, because the dollar has been so strong as the reserve currency. But what I would say is when you have silver being held down to stupid levels for such a long time, it really hurts the ability to explore. I mean, it's expensive to explore and to dig and to mine. You have the energy costs, the cost of labor and just the cost of everything. It's a very labor and cost intensive industry. With silver not performing the way anyone thought it should, counterintuitively, that affected not only the major miners, but also the juniors and the exploration companies who have been left for dead with no investment. And it's too expensive to do much in terms of meaningful mining. You contrast that with China. For years, they've been mining gold and silver, even if it was uneconomical, because they see the big picture. They think in terms of decades or longer, and we don't. And so, yeah, we're at a massive, it's a problem. And you're seeing the Trump administration sign deals with some domestic mining companies to mine strategic elements on their behalf, and silver will benefit from that. But it's too bad that the ambition of maybe the military industrial complex, I would argue, to hold down the price has dramatically affected the ability for exploration and junior mining companies to look for silver. Sure, I mean, you could make the same statement about uranium and all of these critical minerals that have really, due to regulations and restrictions and mostly the restrictions on the environment, a lot of this has expanded to other parts of the world, South America and South Africa and other countries that have exploited their reserves. Many of the arguments that we see coming from that side of the aisle lack logic. And, it's at some point you have to think about national security. And when you realize that the U.S. literally imports almost all of its silver, yet it is needed in so many respects, it's about time that they reclassified it a critical mineral. It should have been done a long time ago. And the folks in Canada tried to call it strategic about 2 years ago to have it reclassified, and it is. And that's, it's funny because a lot of the things that I've been talking about for a long time, gold and silver, which are really the opposite of the dollar, are now being quietly embraced by the U.S. government, and both gold and silver are kind of no longer contrarian as much as they once were. Now, maybe for the mainstream it still is, but the government is looking at gold and silver as far more than archaic relics from the past. In fact, I think they are looking at gold to be part of the monetary system and looking at silver as strategic and critical as it really truly is, especially in a world that is digital. You talk about transmission of energy. It transmits civilization. Without silver, you do not have the ability to have the infrastructure that is needed to be a growing, thriving civilization. It's really important, and I think it's someone tapped Trump on the shoulder and said it's about time that we do this for this country, and I'm thankful for that. And what they've done is make it a matter of national security and national policy. They put a floor under the price of silver. I do believe that. And then you look at the largest refiner in the world, China, saying, well, we're not going to export very much anymore. It's becoming a battle. Then you look at the supplies on the London Metals Exchange, the LBMA, that are literally being bled dry. We've talked about extensively. Yeah, things are going to get interesting. And when we talk about silver, Sarah, I don't tell people to buy it to get rich or to get wealthy. It is wealth. But when you look at the size of the market cap of the silver market, it's a pimple on the elephant's rear end. It's such a small market cap. If you start to all of a sudden throw in government money, you're going to have a battle between the industrials, Tesla, Samsung, Sony, the hedge funds who smell blood in the water, the investors, and the government. All three are going to be vying for the same ounce of silver. The potential is massive, and it's not why you buy it, but it is truly has an extraordinary story behind it.
That's right.
I think government acknowledging
it's
that
interesting.
Puts an exclamation point behind it.
When I talk about silver, I never tell people to buy it to get rich. Silver isn't a lottery ticket or a meme stock play. It is wealth. That's the difference between trading and preserving. You don't buy silver because you want to make money. You buy it because you understand what money actually is. Silver has been money for 5,000 years. Empires have risen and fallen, currencies have come and gone, but silver and gold remain the ultimate constants of value. Now, let's put this in perspective. When we talk about the silver market, we're not talking about some trillion-dollar asset class. The entire global above-ground investment-grade silver market is about the size of a mid-tier tech company's market cap. It's a pimple on the elephant's backside. Tiny, underappreciated, and frankly, ridiculously undervalued. But that small size also means it doesn't take much to move it. Throw in just one new class of buyers. Say, government stockpiling, or large-scale industrial demand. And the dynamics explode. You'll have a three-way battle between industrial users like Tesla, Samsung and Sony, investors and hedge funds who smell blood in the water, and governments that now view silver as a matter of national security. Think about that. $3 trillion sectors, all chasing the same ounce of silver. That's not a recipe for a quiet market. That's a recipe for chaos. The irony here is that for decades, silver's price has been artificially suppressed. I'm not talking tinfoil hat stuff. I'm talking about a measurable, documented pattern of paper manipulation. When you have a futures market that trades 1 billion ounces of silver in a day, more than the planet produces in a year, you know it's not a natural market. It's a control mechanism. That's what's made it so hard for miners to stay in business, especially in the West. When the price of silver is held below its true cost of production, exploration dries up, juniors can't raise capital. Major miners shelve projects. Over time, you starve the supply chain. And that's exactly what's happened. The United States, the world's largest consumer of silver, barely cracks the top 10 in production. Most of our silver comes from Mexico and Peru. It's not that we don't have silver deposits here. It's that we stopped looking. The economics just didn't make sense. Exploration is expensive. Energy, labor, and equipment costs are high. And when the commodity's price is kept artificially low, you kill the incentive to mine. Meanwhile, countries like China took the opposite approach. They mined their gold and silver even when it wasn't profitable, because they think in decades, not quarters. They understood that strategic resources aren't about quarterly earnings. They're about sovereignty. And now, after years of thinking ahead, they're reaping the rewards. Contrast that with the West. For decades, our policymakers treated gold and silver as archaic relics. We abandoned the metal standard, we printed paper, we built mountains of debt, and we outsourced our supply chains. Now, in 2025, we're realizing that the very metals we dismissed as obsolete are essential to the future. Silver isn't just about coins or jewelry anymore. It's the bloodstream of the modern world. Without silver, there's no green energy, no electric vehicles, no semiconductors, no AI, no modern defense systems. It's the single most conductive metal known to science, the lifeblood of both data and power transmission. When you think about what drives civilization today, energy, information, speed, silver is at the heart of it all. And yet, the US imports nearly all of it. Let that sink in. The same nation that claims to be the technological leader of the world depends on foreign countries for one of the key ingredients of its digital and energy infrastructure. That's not just bad economics. That's a national security risk. That's why the recent reclassification of silver as a critical mineral in the United States is so significant. This isn't just bureaucratic jargon. It means Washington finally acknowledges that silver is indispensable. It's the first time in history that silver is being discussed alongside lithium, nickel, and rare earths, the building blocks of the new energy economy. And I'll tell you something else. This didn't happen by accident. It's no secret that the Trump administration has been quietly signing agreements with domestic mining companies to expand strategic resource production. Silver is part of that plan. It's becoming a national priority. For years, I've been saying that silver's true story would eventually be told not by investors, but by governments and industry. Now that moment has arrived. When the US government calls something critical, it changes the entire market structure. It puts a floor under the price. It ensures funding for exploration. It invites stockpiling and protectionism. And in a market as small as silver, that's a monumental shift. At the same time, the world's largest silver refiner, China, has announced new export restrictions. Starting in 2026, all silver exports will require government approval on a case-by-case basis. Beijing's message is clear. We'll keep what we need, and you can fight over the rest. So here we are. The US calls silver critical. China locks down exports. The LBMA's London vaults are bleeding supply. COMEX inventories are scraping the bottom, and industrial demand is hitting record highs. Folks, we're watching the makings of a historic supply crunch in real time. When I say silver isn't an investment, it's wealth. This is what I mean. It's the one asset that governments, corporations, and individuals all need simultaneously. That's what gives it asymmetrical potential. You're not betting on speculation, you're front-running necessity. And make no mistake, necessity will win. Because when the world runs short on silver, it won't just be investors panic buying coins, it'll be factories shutting down. It'll be defense contractors calling Congress. It'll be automakers and solar panel producers lobbying for government allocations. That's when you'll see a war for ounces. Industrial, financial, and geopolitical. The irony is that this didn't need to happen. If silver had been allowed to trade freely, we'd have had steady mining investment and diversified supply chains. But decades of manipulation kept prices so low that the industry couldn't sustain itself. Now the bill is coming due. So, for those who've been stacking silver quietly for years, congratulations. You were early, not wrong. You saw what the government is just now beginning to admit, that silver is indispensable to civilization.